Folks, welcome to another edition of Rimshots with Sean, brought to you by Barstools and Bandtalk. I have a fellow drummer here tonight. This is exciting. All the way from, I'm assuming it's sunny Los Angeles today. Is it sunny there today?
Sunny and warm, yeah. It's in the 90s.
So we have Phil Leavitt and Seven Horse. We're going to talk about Seven Horse. And for all my friends at the 90s, when you say 90s Fahrenheit, we're Celsius up here. I think it's what is it? Double it and add 30. So you can do that math yourself, folks. It's hot down there compared to up here. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Forgive my dog. My dog jumps into this a little bit. You might hear her yip yapping. It's been a tough day around the house with some visitors, but I think she's going to be okay. I'm doing well, man. I'm just getting ready for this gig on November the 4th, and we've got some music about to drop and a record that's coming out. So we got a lot of stuff going on. We're really excited about.
So obviously the first show in 2 years, obviously everybody knows what happened the last 2 years. So, you guys, you have this bill that's going to be a special show. You've got some special guests. I'm not going to ask you to reveal those, but this venue holds a very special place for you guys. I'm assuming that's why you chose to do it there.
Yeah, the Roxy Theater in Hollywood. It's in Los Angeles. It's held in very high esteem. It's a classic small venue. It's 500 capacity room, but the room was opened in 1973 by Neil Young on a 3-night stand. Warren Zevon, Soundgarden. I mean, everybody that's anybody really has come through this venue, and we played there. At the beginning of our career, my partner and I started in a band called Dada in 1992. And that was one of the first big shows we did in LA was at the Roxy. So, I was just in there yesterday morning to shoot some stuff for social media in an empty room at 10 o'clock in the morning. And just being in there, they've got some great photos of like Ozzy Osbourne on the stage. The guys in Soundgarden in action there. I mean, it's just a great room. I mean, these kind of rooms are all over the country and all over Canada. But anytime you get in a room like that is revered, in LA, it's like the Troubadour and the Roxy of that size are kind of the classic venues, and it's designed for music, and it sounds amazing in there, and it's just a great audience experience. The stage is low, and the feeling is very intimate. So we're excited about it.
And I guess nothing quite like when you have a venue of that size when it's packed and you're really close to the audience. The energy is really second to none.
Well, that's what we're hoping for. Since it's been over 2.5 years since we've been in front of anybody. I think that night, Friday night, November the 4th, is going to be pretty electric. Specifically for fans of this band, because we've done our best to stay connected with people via all the avenues that we have now, social media. We did a podcast in 2021 for a dozen episodes. I mean, we did everything we could to stay connected to people, but there is nothing like getting in a room with people that support and want to hear your music and sharing that experience. That's what it's all about for us.
A theme, and I say this all the time. My podcast started out of, I was doing a radio show. COVID shut it down. I was like, what the heck? I'm going to go and talk to some of my musical friends. The next thing you know, this little 5-week project here, we still are. You mentioned you guys did a podcast. Did you guys jump on or use technology and anything to kind of keep yourselves out there? Because a theme that I got was a lot of people kind of sulked. We don't have anything going on. We're going to take our bat ball. We're going to ride this thing out and wait. And the people that kind of jumped on technology and streamed and did certain things are the ones that are really the benefactors of that now. Is that what you guys did?
I would say so. I mean, we decided that, we had to stay active. The podcast was one way. We started kind of like you. We started calling our friends, people that we collaborated with, people we used to work with. We have an amazing piece that we did with our old record label president from our days on IRS. We got Miles Copeland, and it's very rare to be able to interview. Our old band Dada had a very a kind of a classic rock and roll story with early success and then not able to repeat it, and the label goes out of business. And we were able to put Miles Copeland in the hot seat and kind of say, how did you guys drop the ball on our record, back in the 90s? And he was very funny, and it was a cool interview. So we talked to people like that. We leaned heavily into content on social media to stay connected with our audience. And immediately we decided, well, we can't tour, so we're going to write and we're going to record. And my partner, who lives in Seattle, was on a plane, before pretty much anybody was moving around. When air travel was, I mean, I guess it kind of shut down for a few weeks, but I mean, there was continuous air travel, just nobody was flying. So he'd come down, he's on an empty plane wearing an N95 by himself. He'd come down here. We work downstairs in I have one of these rare LA homes that has a basement, so it's got a little music room in it. He'd come over, we'd work in masks for 5 days while we were waiting to get tested. We didn't know what was going on. We managed to get in the studio. We wrote a whole record and recorded it. We also did a remote session with our friend Cherie Curry from the Runaways. We did a collaboration with her where we participated in a video from our, you've probably seen a lot of these when people were holed up in different places. But we wanted to try to stay in contact and actually build audience during this downtime. And we were able to do it via steady content creation and engagement on social media and just communicating, answering comments, talking to fans, going live. We did an 8-hour live stream on Halloween. We did what we called the 7-horse Halloween Rockathon, which was kind of like an old school telethon. We went live for 8 hours on a stage, invited guests down to jam with us and put on a show for 8 hours for our fans during the lockdown. So we did everything we could do, man, to keep this thing going, because we did not want to just go into a hole and wait for the other side. We wanted to try to remain engaged in what we were about and what we were doing and share that with people. And I think we were pretty successful at it.
Well, and I mean, it was pretty easy. I mean, I'm assuming down there was the same as up here. I mean, you had a whole pocket of people. I mean, I wanted to be motivated and keep doing things. Some of my friends, not so much. And then there was certain people that they were so discouraged that it was like, that's it, it's over. And again, the people that kind of kept rolling in some way, shape, or form are now the ones that are kind of the benefactors of that work now. Because really, I think it does take a period of time. I mean, instant success or overnight success is not a true thing. Fair enough?
100%. I mean, we looked at the downtime as like, all right. I mean, we were starting to think, all right, there's no touring in 2020. We didn't think 2021 was going to be much of anything either. We kind of had a long-term look at this thing. And, look, we're pretty deep into our career here. He and I have been partners for 30 years in 2 different bands. We've had a long, successful career, kind of, in a certain way under the radar. It's a cult kind of following that we've had up until this point. But we weren't in any way, shape, or form ready to kind of cash it in. And we thought, all right, here's an opportunity to just dig in and reach more people through the avenues that are available to us. And I think for us, it was a motivating factor to like, let's do a little bit every day. The incremental gains, like you're talking about, overnight success, I'm much more into steady progress. Day after day after day, you keep adding to that pile, keep adding to that, that little incremental success. And then you look back a year later and you go, wow, look how far I've come. Or 2 years later, look what I've done. And, I still approach it that way. Like, let's see what happens a year from now. Let's see where we're at. If you're looking for quick fixes of that dopamine hit that you get from that quick success, I don't know, man. That's hard to do in music, especially if you've been around for a while. You have to grind it out, I think, and wait for the moment when you have a song that connects in a certain way to people, and maybe that kind of gives you a real boost. And we've had that a few times, so we know it's possible.
Fair enough. And I mean, I think a lot of people, I made the joke, if I see one more 4-year-old doing Tom Sawyer perfectly on YouTube, I'm going to throw up, right? And I think that a lot of people think that if they're not at that level, all is lost, and it's really, it totally missed the mark.
Man, I couldn't agree with you more, because when I came up, nobody could play like that.
Right.
Nobody could play like that. You saw Peart doing that, and it was like, I'm going to take the rest of my life to reach that level. Now you've got kids that are in single digits that can totally play Tom Sawyer. But the thing about Tom Sawyer is, yes, it's an incredible drumming piece, but what makes it so great is that he invented it.
Right.
You know, it's not just playing it. Anybody can spend the time and learn how to play that. And yes, it is impressive. And hey, that's cool. Good for you. I'm glad you can do that. But what's next? For me, it's always been about songs. The thing that is the currency of the music business, the thing that rock and roll is about, is repertoire. It's songwriting. And I would say to young musicians, like, hey, great, spend that time and get down those chops and play in 7/8 and 13/16, which Tom Sawyer is in. And I've spent some time working on it. I can kind of stumble my way through it, but that's not what I need to make myself carve out a niche for myself in this business. I need repertoire. I need songs that connect, because that's the stuff. Solos come and go. Riffs stay forever.
Yeah.
Hooks. That's the stuff that people remember. And my favorite drummers when I was growing up, I mean, Ringo was my guy. I love the Beatles and I love Copeland. Those were my guys. Um, but the thing and those guys are both great in their own way. And there's all kinds of great drummers, Neil, you can name them, John Bonham, all these great drummers. But the thing I think people forget to make the connection of, it's the songs that they played on
Right.
that make them famous. It's not that Neil Peart is the greatest drummer technically ever. I got news for you. He's not. There's other guys who have more technique, but he's played on some of the most iconic songs ever. And it's the songs that you play on that carve your niche in history.
I don't want to. I like what you were saying there. I don't want to deviate too much from talking about you guys, but I will say, and I want to get your 2 cents on this because you went down a path and technology versus not technology. And during the whole lockdown, I was kind of geeking out on isolated drum tracks. I was listening to, you know, um, Bonham and Alex Van Halen and all this stuff. And the thing that hit me more than anything else, it wasn't the perfection; it was the little imperfections. There's parts of Highway Star where you go, Ian Pace didn't play that perfectly. That's what sets up the groove. That's what makes it brilliant.
Yeah, man, I think there's been something that's lost a little bit in the last 10, 15 years in music, maybe even a little bit longer, because it was coming in even when I got started. Yes, you play to click tracks to keep time steady, but yeah, if you go in there and not to get too technical with people, but you can get into your Pro Tools rig and you can line up everything completely dead center on the grid and have a very machine-like performance on drums and bass or whatever. You can make everything completely locked. And I'm sure you've heard this, and your audience is, I'm sure, aware of this, but you extract all the humanity out of music when you do that. And the reason why we love John Bonham, you listen to John Bonham's track soloed up, the time is not dead center perfect. The guy speeds up, it lays back. That's the human feel, and that's what puts his signature on songs. Same thing with Ringo, same thing with Charlie Watts, same thing with Bill Ward, same thing with the Alex Van Halen. Until you got guys who their goal is to play everything dead center on the click, that's a skill to that, and that is certainly applicable in dance music. You want time to be absolutely perfect, but in rock and roll, man, rock and roll is about feel and real rock and roll. And this was always what Keith Richards likes to say. It's like if you got the rock without the roll, it's not quite it. It's the roll is that swing, and that connects all the way back to jazz and blues, and that looseness of feel is something that we've lost a little bit in modern music. We always try in Seven Horse to capture that. We play together. Yeah, we use click tracks, not all the time. Sometimes we don't. We'll cut tracks that really swing without click tracks. And I think people are naturally their souls are connected to that. It hits you in a different way than real machine like music hits you. At least that's how I feel about it.
Well, so when I get the video for Hippies on Acid, and
Yeah,
I was sitting there going, okay, this is very cool. So there's two of you in the video. I don't know if it's a two-piece band, and that's how you guys set it
yeah,
up. But it had a super cool vibe. And initially I'm going, okay, this could be White Stripes. Totally not White Stripes.
yeah,
Um, Groovy, just punchy, just very cool.
yeah.
Um, First off, was
Well,
that
thanks.
recorded to a click track? And did you guys do that live off the floor? How'd you do that?
I think we probably had a click track running on that, but I always, for me, when he and I are cutting together, and we do cut together on the floor as a two piece and keep as much of that as we possibly can, and then we'll overdub some other stuff on top, and I'll have the click track running. But to me, that's a suggestion of, okay, here's the center of the time. My job isn't to play dead center of time on time all the time. My job is to make that thing feel good. So when we turn the corner, and I learned this 30 years ago, because we made our first record in Dada with Ken Scott, who was a legendary engineer at Trident Studios in England, worked with the Beatles, David Bowie, Supertramp, and he would do stuff like, we hit the chorus, we were playing with a click, but the click would go up a BPM or two for the chorus because he wanted the chorus to lean forward. And for me as a young drummer, I had to chase that. Now, being where I am, having done this for a while, like I can get on the front side a little bit if I want the chorus to lean forward or if I want things to sit back. To me, the click track is, here's where the clock is running, and that beat is wide. It's most music now. The beat is here. For me, the beat's here, and you can be here or you can be here, and you're still playing in time. But that's what feel is all about. And I don't
Suggestion.
know. It's a suggestion of
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
exactly, and that's how I use it when we use it.
So how's the single doing for you? I really liked it. I mean, I heard it. I played it a number of times. I was actually on the way to a meeting and I showed it to a friend. They're like, geez, that's really cool. I mean, it's got this, neon vibe to it. And how's it doing for you?
Yeah, that video is really cool. I mean, we got we've been on like a 6 week release schedule for these singles. So we released Hippies on Acid. 2 weeks later, we dropped the video. 4 weeks after that, we dropped our next single, a track called Hey Vominos. The videos are both, we've released two videos, Hippies on Acid, Hey Vominos. They're both, how are things doing? Things are so much different now than they were in the days when we'd have the top 40 charts or the radio charts. But I'm looking at views. Both of the videos are over 100,000 views. Hippies on Acid, Spotify gave it an editorial playlist position. These are the kind of things that now you're looking at instead of, we haven't even gone to radio with this stuff.
Right.
It's like, used to be that would be your first move as your single would come out and you'd run a radio campaign. But what I've learned over the last decade is that you'd rather get some traction first before bringing your record to FM radio. So we haven't even pursued that yet. And that'll probably be next year. But our fan base really likes those tracks. They've been streaming at a high rate. We're bringing in new fans. All of the things that I look at as far as growth for our band and our fan base, those tracks have both done well. We're really excited about this Friday, the 30th of September. We're dropping our next track, which is called Try to Forget It. And this is kind of like a quintessential seven horse track with this halftime kind of swaggering halftime groove, a very powerhouse, simple guitar riff, and a big chorus, big rock and roll chorus, which is kind of what we are known for. So the first two set this one up, and then following that, at the end of October, a week before our show at the Roxy, we'll drop the whole album. The album's called The Last Resort, and that'll come out on October the 28th. And by that time, hopefully our fans will be really tuned up and ready for the rest of it.
Well, what I'd like to do, I'd like to stop segment one here and talk about the album on the flip side. So we'll be back
Cool.
after this.